What's up, fellas? Another day out in the garage working on the project Mustang. So what we did last night is we're relocating the battery to the trunk. So I'll show you what we did and the setup that we got going on there. So here's basically what we got going on. So in the corner, we got a battery box bolted down there, and got our battery sat in there, and then we got 0 gauge or 1/0 gauge welding wire, welding cable with copper connectors on them, running out where the old fill neck would go. Since we got a fuel cell now, we're not going to need that. So I use that grommet to run that wire out to underneath the vehicle, and then from there over there it comes in over in the corner there in that opening, and I ran it up on top of basically where the trans would be. I got it mounted with clips there, and then it runs over here up to this junction block I got right there. It accepts 0 gauge up to 14 gauge wire, and it's got nice little Allen head pins that you tighten down. That tightens down on the wire, and so that's what we got there. But that big wire all the way to the left is a 0 gauge coming from the battery. And then that smaller wire right next to it goes to supply the fuse box right there. All I did is use the factory wire that originally goes to the battery up here. I just cut the end off of it. And so that supplies the fuse box. The next wire in is a wire that goes back to supply our dual field pumps. It supplies the voltage through our relays to supply both fuel pumps. And then the next one is goes down to the starter. I use the original starter wire. Just like I said, cut the end off of it. We're attached to the battery originally. Slid it in there. And then that last slot is going to be we're going to run 0 gauge to our 200 amp alternator. It'll be mounted right there once I finish up with the crossover delete. Get them hoses made and get the fittings tightened down, and I can remount that battery. I got about a 4 to 6 inch lead off the battery, and that goes into a 250 amp circuit breaker, or excuse me, fuse, not circuit breaker. It's not a circuit breaker. I was gonna go circuit breaker, but then I decided against it. This went with a standard fuse, 250 amp inline fuse, and then from there is where it comes up to this. So if it shorts out on anything, it'll pop that fuse in the back and save from burning this bitch down. So I got that temporarily mounted there. I'm going to figure out some kind of mount to keep that nice and flush, make it look halfway decent. After I get all the wires ran that I need, and then I can figure out what I'm going to do with the mounting of it. I believe what we're going to do is possibly put the transmission in it. I need to get that stabbed in there so that the engine will be sitting level where it's going to be at, so I can get all this intercooler piping mounted. I got it mocked up right now. You can see underneath there. Let's see if I can get you a better shot. This is, like I said, this is a CG Fab kit. So that's the inlet, the outlet from the turbo to the inlet in the intercooler. And then that large one underneath, the 3 inch or 3.5 inch outlet to the engine, and that comes up right there. And obviously a coupler goes in between that pipe and the turbocharger. I gotta get one because the couplers that came with the kit's made primarily for like precision turbos, but since I'm running Borg Warner S300 series, The outlet on my turbo is 3" and that tubing is 2.5". So the couplers are 2.5" on both ends. So I need to get a 2.5" to 3" coupler for both turbos. I got them ordered, so hopefully they'll be here in the near future. And then on this side, you see the same deal. They line up really nice. He did a hell of a job. I told him what turbos I was running, and he mocked it up real nice. And same deal coming off of. And there's the couplers. I forgot to show this. This is our remote oil filter setup. It's got a plate on the block that takes place of the original factory oil cooler, and it runs this. I got it temporarily mounted. It won't be all crooked as fuck like it is now once I get it. An L bracket made for it. But that sensor off the top is the old pressure sensor for a gauge. Then the one on the bottom there is a factory dummy light. So we keep the factory dummy light working, oil pressure gauge on the cluster. That's from MMR. That's their kit right there. So yeah, so I'll be running this. It'll come out from the engine to the filter. The oil will be filtered. Then it'll go out of the filter to our front mount oil cooler, and then out of the oil cooler back to the engine. And we're going to set this oil cooler up on a thermostatic switch, so that, you know, once we get around, you know, I don't know, 200 degrees or so, maybe a little more oil temp, the fan will come on and it'll help it cool down. So that's what we're going to do there. That's just a little update of what we got done last night. It's raining out there today. It's kind of overcast and cloudy. NASCAR's in town, so downtown's hectic. So much traffic running in and out. Everybody partying, having a good time, so I try to stay out from downtown. But that's what we got. I don't think they're going to be doing much racing today, though, with the rain right now. It's Saturday, so I'm not exactly sure what they're going to get in, but hopefully by tomorrow the rain will stop and they can get the cup cars in, get the race ran. So. The front coilover setup installed last night. These are strange single adjustable shocks with a strange coilover kit. 150-pound 12-inch springs in the front. I put new Moog ball joints in there, lower ball joints, yesterday, because the originals, the boots were all torn and they're sloppy as fuck. So we got them set up, and we're running UPR caster camber plates. They're originally on the car, so we're just going to run them. And we got the rear suspension all set up too. We got the rear strange single adjustables in the rear with adjustable lower control arms that we can adjust ride height with the spring setting. And we got new quad shocks in there as well. That shit was all pretty old stuff, so it's all been updated.